Us entrepreneurs are people that are small business owners that are working on our apparel or jewelry or a brand for an event. We're up all night, you know what I'm saying? Supporters of Luxury is up 24/7, working at the craft.
Holistically, wholesomely, and these are gratitude journal lines that I'm selling today. Each one comes with a 10-day gratitude challenge, all designed to help you see the glass half full at all times, how to see the good and the bad, and just how to feel good. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if they did not do this, and I believe that they didn't, they have been living a nightmare for 36 years.
Well, I don't know. Yet knew that he was innocent.
To be convicted for a crime that you know you didn't commit, and you're going to be in prison for the rest of your life without the possibility of parole, probation, or suspension of sentence, and you're in an environment where you're in a cell in solitary confinement for from now on until you're there, and then you may not even get out. And when I say not get out, meaning after you're dead, the state of Louisiana can claim your body. Your people don't even have to get it. You belong to the state. And this is terrible.
The prison is built on a former slave plantation. It is called Angola because the slaves who once worked the land came from Angola in Africa. It was a natural choice for siting Louisiana State Penitentiary in the 1890s, its remote location making escape virtually impossible. At 18,000 acres, Angola has become America's largest prison. Home to over 5,000 inmates, it has developed its own distinctive way of life.
Boys and girls, bound to free, black or white, it's that time again. That's right, the annual prison rodeo.
At Angola's rodeo, the most popular event is convict poker. The last inmate to get up from the table wins $200. 150 miles down the Mississippi River, the men destined to become the Angola Three grew up in a New Orleans emerging from segregation, but where the color of your skin still determined your fate.
You know, they called the 50s the golden years, but they weren't golden for us or for me either. And so, while he may have really used to run,
then he would come back. And then the next time I saw him, he was in New Orleans police station.
So I ain't no angel. Never been an angel. It wasn't anything vicious or, I wasn't doing, anything that was dastardly or anything like that. But burglary or something like that, or, the little theft, walking in the store stealing something, of course I did that. But I can say at the times in which I was arrested and sent to prison, it was something that I didn't do. The stuff that I did, I got away with it. Maybe it was poetic justice, I don't know. But I didn't look at it like that.
Herman Wallace was also finding himself on the wrong side of the law.
I read about it in the newspaper when I saw the name Herman Wallace. I go, wow, bank robbery, 9th Street magazine. So I knew the whole family, and he used to walk what we call pigeon toes like this. So we called him Hooks. And this is how he had that name since he was a little kid. I was surprised because he wasn't the type of guy that would be in and out of the boys' home or locked down. He had minor problems just as the average youngster would have.
I was buff, I was pretty, I was strong, I was dumb. I was just another petty criminal.
I think I was kind of impressed with Herman because I think he always had the audacity to rob a bank. And I had never got to that point.
While Herman Wallace was facing a long sentence for his 1967 bank robbery, 20-year-old Albert Woodfox was not far behind him.
Well, I actually got 2 years in the parish jail, parish called Thibodeau, Louisiana, and was a long way from New Orleans, so I got homesick, lost my mom was poor, nobody was coming to visit me, so I ran off, stopped at this construction site to get some rest, and I climbed in the cement mixer, you know, and saw the keys in there. So I drove to New Orleans, you know. As long as I was driving on the highway and stuff was no problem, you know. Once I got to the city and I pull up to a stop sign, police car pull on, they look up and see this young kid sitting in a big old cement truck, you know. Naturally, everything is out of place, you know. So they told me to pull over. I pulled over, jumped out and ran, you know. They shot at me and I got arrested the next day, you know.
I think it was initially arrested for maybe suspicion of armed robbery, and then it was upgraded, you know, to armed robbery. And I was arrested not because I looked like the perpetrator or that I was a perpetrator. I was arrested because I had a record, you know. There was one lone black dude on trial, he said not guilty, and one white dude said not guilty, and 10 other whites found me guilty. And I ended up getting 35 years.
By the end of the 1960s, all three men had been convicted of separate armed robberies and faced decades in prison. But Albert Woodfox wasn't going to disappear without a struggle.
Same day I went to court, they sentenced me to everyone knew about Harlem. And there that I first observed Black Panthers moving around the community, engaging people in conversations, selling newspapers and stuff like it. Yeah, it was the first time in my life that I ever saw an African American person exhibiting so much pride.
This is a hold-up. We come for what's ours.
Albert Woodfox was impressed by these militant ideas. Recaptured in New York, he was detained in the infamous Tombs prison. There, he saw the Panthers' confrontational tactics at work.
We were littered with debris from the riot. Glass, masonry, tear gas canisters, even several dead rats thrown out the windows by the inmates.
Ultimately, the Panthers' protests against the horrendous conditions would lead to the demolition of the Tombs prison.
The people in New York, they had labeled me a militant because I was very boisterous about conditions and stuff. So when they shipped me out to New Orleans, militant automatically meant Panthers.
Albert was sent back to the New Orleans Parish prison. By the fall of 1970, Robert King was already there. And outside its walls, conflicts between the Panthers and the police had reached the desired housing projects of the city.
On September the 15th, which is a spiritual day in my life, we had a shootout with the police here. They shot Betty Tucson, and they shot her with a shotgun.
It just so happened I witnessed the shootout because they had a television, but the television wasn't really for the guys in the cell. The television was really for the officer who guarded the still. And I heard that there was an important bulletin. And the interruption of the newscaster came on when they say that someone was in the house shooting it out with the police. I must admit, I really felt proud. The only thing I wish that I was in the house with him. And it was at that time that I really became an active member of the Black Panther Party.
I mean, it was the first time that the Lions ever attacked a water hole, but now the wildebeest is not running. But they stood up and saying to the authorities that you cannot come in our community and destroy. We went from the streets of desire to court to death row. All in one day. They had told us we was on death row because they had told us we was going to execute all of us. Made sure that they allow us to see where the electric chair was going to be and a little crap like that.
Malik was on C1, which is, C1 would be down on the other side, and it was known at that time as the Panther Chair.
And the day on that chair was my joining the Black Panther Party became a reality. Nothing could ever make me go back to being a critic person.
The authorities hoped that they could neutralize the black militants in the parish prison by putting them together with prisoners they called black gangsters, men like Herman Wallace, who was also on the same prison tier in the fall of 1970.
My first experience with Herman is I gave him my shoes. We was on our way to court, and I seen that he needed some shoes.
While I was up on the tier, I had a brand new pair of Edwin Clouds, and the leather, pure leather, it shrinks when they're wet, right?
I asked him what size he wore. We wore the same size, so I gave him mine.
He said, look like your shoes are pretty tight. And he took his off and gave him something and walked away without a response.
That happened to be one of the days I go to court, my mother there. You know, and she, oh boy, the boy ain't got no shoes. You know, so I mean, it was a thing, but I knew how it was to be swung down the way they was.
And right then, I knew that was what I needed to be a part of. And I got caught up into it, and I started sitting in on their meetings, you know, and became a member of the party.
I knew that I stood a better chance of getting another pair of shoes because I know my comrades wouldn't allow me to go without.
Place in the dungeon, that level of energy just started to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and I even saw his condition dilapidate through his handwriting.
One of the things they use to keep inmates in line is the threat to send them into CCR. But then inside CCR, there's a hole. There's a hole within a hole. That hole is called Camp J.
It was a punishment camp. Some of the inmates they would actually try to kill themselves. They would start beating their heads up against the wall. They couldn't stand being put on 4-point restraint. So they would put the football helmet on to keep them from hurting themselves. And that only made it worse because then the claustrophobia sets in, you know. So I don't think anyone has any idea how humiliating it is to be shackled onto the bed with a football helmet on your head and to lay there and urinate and defecate on yourself, you know, day after day after day, you know.
It was a situation that a person really needed every ounce of whatever it takes to survive, whatever wit, you know. And some people manage to do that.
Even with the threat of being sent to the dungeons of Camp J, the Angola Three continued to demand basic human rights.
They became prison litigators. They were suing the penitentiary on all kinds of issues. They became extraordinary lawyers.
Like you when you said 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. We had to file a lawsuit in order to get on the yard, 1 hour on the yard, 3 days a week.
Lay your palms flat and spread your fingers out. That's pretty much how the yards work. Except they had 6 of them instead of 4, you know. 1 man per yard for CPR. We challenge each other and do a great deal of strenuous exercises to keep our bodies in shape.
They did their best to stop us. And they did several times. They kind of sprayed us out and put us in different places. But I think they kind of realized that in doing that, they wasn't doing nothing but maybe distributing what they wanted to contain. So they decided to keep us all in one place.
They used to set our food on the door and slide it underneath the door. And we had to pick it up and eat it because we eventually got tired of that. And we had a 45-day hunger strike in order to get them to say the food can be served through the slots. It took us 18 months to do that, so in the meantime, we reached an agreement that we could eat through our balls if we wanted to hold our trays in our hands. He ran for somebody, I think it was King, made like a little shelf on his door out of cardboard and string, so he could set the tray there and stand and eat food balls. And eventually everybody copied that.
Some guys got fancy. They began to put drawings on it and color it up, put tablecloth on it. And so they saw we were having fun. Then they decided to come over and cut the holes in the bottles.
Release, both Herman Wallace and Albert Woodfox have been released. Herman Wallace was released in 2013, and he shortly died, literally 3 days later, from liver cancer. And this time last year, Albert Woodfox was released from Angola. So Preston and I actually had the pleasure of meeting both Malik Rahim, who was shown, the brother with the locks, who's the founder of the Louisiana chapter of the Black Panther Party, as well as King. And I actually have a picture of us with them in New Orleans. So that was a great experience. That's actually how we got hold of this footage. He gave us the DVD, along with a lot of information about the Angola Free, because at the time, Albert Woodfox was still in prison. So he gave us that. Preston and I actually uploaded a snippet from our conversation with him in New Orleans. It's on our blog, and it's on. It's called.
It's like Black Panther Speaks.
Black Panther Speaks, and it's on YouTube.
Yeah, so if you search Malik Rahim, Black Panther on YouTube, it's like one of the first videos that comes up. It's a black and white video.
So, yeah, I mean, the unfortunate part is that, you know, they had a lot of press and a lot of attention, but there's so many people that are still in solitary confinement, like in the same situation, like they would have been released, you know, getting set up, like conditions still horrible in prison. But what if you guys
So at the Attorney General, I don't know what his name is called, but I feel like this is my opinion. I tend to go against the rules, I was gonna say. Right. I just feel like there needs to be less research organizations into this kind of stuff and more action-oriented things. Like, for instance, like what is Black Lives Matter doing with all the money that they have, right? Like they should be organizing things to get people like that Attorney General out of office, right? Like I feel like they have a 10-point plan, and that's beautiful, but that's just a plan with like little action to me, like what I'm seeing, and there just needs to be more action with it. And it makes me wonder, like, why are people like Google, for instance, funding all the research but not the action organizations, right? They're funding all of the research. There's plenty of research. Every single year there will always be statistics about why things are fucked up. Every single year, right? But it's like, what are we not doing, right? Like, why can't we get people like that out?
But, I mean, part of that is because Google is more than likely the CIA, and has no interest in actually changing anything. And also, just like we have to begin to realize, and in some ways expose the fact that Black Lives Matter is not the Black Panther Party.
They got $3 million. What are they doing?
And that $3 million was, a lot of that money is sourced from what? Soros. Like a lot of these people who are highly compromised and involved in the systemic oppression that we're in, who fund these types of groups for a reason. Like there's a strategic, like there's a aspect of it that does agitate, but it doesn't holistically deal with the situation. And we actually, on the blog, we also have a piece that we did. It's called Black Lives Matter ? And it just goes more in depth as far as like the things that we should be looking at about Black Lives Matter and why it's actually a problem. Because Black Lives Matter is like us backtracking on everything that the political prisoners, the people that are still in jail right now, did. The reason why they're in jail, like the sacrifices that they made for us, we're complete, like we didn't pick up the ball. We dropped the ball, and then now we went like 3 fields behind, and we're talking about Black Lives Matter. Like, that was not the demand that was left behind, and it's not really a tangible demand.
Well, you know, Black Lives Matter, it was solid when it first came out. When it started trending, it became, waterish, became whitewash. So, you have to be very careful when you start writing about an organization that's going to help. Caucasians, they get involved with it, and then the media get involved with it, and after a while, have no strength in it. So, this is happening in America's up. This is happening right now. They still are still practicing these acts of injustice.
There's still people in solitary at Angola right now, still in those conditions. Right
They
now.
are picking cotton in Angola. Like,
I feel like we need to invest in prisons. Looking at black-owned private prisons. So at least we could.
Jordan is taking a program.
No, that's not what Michael Jordan is doing. Michael Jordan is just invested in prison. That's a power. We're talking about like owning our own prison or something like that. If that's a part of this country and the justice system, then let's be a part of it, and like we can create fair conditions for people to actually be rehabilitated instead of being treated with injustice. We're supposed to create justice in prison. Like there was a private prison that changed their diet from like B to B, and the rearrest rate went down to 2%. San Francisco, stuff like that. We could do stuff like that. Like we know that like when people don't die from liver cancer, they change the diet. That's 100% why. Like the food sucks there. And, like, he never had a condition. He was. You know what I'm saying?
You know, no one's listening to us on a gold scale. So we get together, it's like, oh, look at them again. Oh, here we go again. But you know, it has to be exposure. I don't think people realize it, and I think all the stuff that's happening now, it's taking white people to be like, oh my God, it's true. Blacks are getting bullied by the cops, and everyone's trying to listen because they're seeing it. So I think the first step is like exposing it. I don't know how.
there's also
No. They don't know. They know, but
they know more than we
do. We need exposure to
be exposed. Yeah, be exposed because they know. They're like, yeah, they know. The guy, the district attorney, he knows. He's standing behind the law. That's why we were saying this book club that the laws have to change. And well, they're standing behind the law. The books are the books. You can't go against the law. So he's using that. But if you expose it,
enough exposure,
right? And they pressure him to change.
We need history.
Right.
We need something. We need to know